This video is brought to you by Cracks Only. Check out the link in the video description below to get to their website and check out their latest products. Trust me, you do not want to miss them. What's going on, people? Welcome to United View. Welcome to some United news, some United therapy, whatever it is you want it to be. It can be that because it was much needed. Obviously, it's kind of like an international break, but not. It's a bit of a rest, and we haven't got any games, and we needed to just get a bit of calm and speak to one of our family members, Mr. Eyejax.
Hi guys, thanks for having me.
How you doing, man?
Doing great, man. Personally, that is. Club football life at the moment is bad for us also. So you think you guys are having a hard time? Imagine us being 18th place a few weeks ago. Never happened in our history. Knocked out of the cup, of the Dutch Cup by a 4th-tier amateur team. Never happened also. So it's been peachy, man.
Bro, you're high. Listen, bro, you're higher than us in the league, so give thanks, okay? Give thanks. You're higher than us.
Yeah, that's true.
This video is brought to you by Cracks Only, as you just saw, though, as usual, man. The link is in the video description below for all of your football needs, whether it's your grip socks, your undergarments, your boot bags, your wash bags, you name it, your training gear. They have it. Big things being done by Cracks Only over there in Los Angeles. Alfredo and the gang doing big stuff. A lot of MLS players wearing their stuff. A lot of college players wearing their stuff. And if you're not into football, and you just like your streetwear and your sportswear, generic hoodies, tracksuits, puffer jackets, everything, it's there. T-shirts, short sets, it's all there. So check out the link in the video description below to get your bits from Cracks Only. A lot of stuff going on between us and them over the next few months. And also, just quickly, the stuff we done with United District got a really good reception. What the Devil podcast, a lot of the guys, a lot of people enjoying it. There's plenty more to come. I'm going to be on the next one. We're going to be doing that weekly as well. So stay tuned for that on United View as well, amongst other things. So if you did enjoy that, make sure you go and check that. Let me turn up my mic if it's a little bit low. I can do that. But Eyejax, listen.
Yeah.
We're both struggling, like you said. I think we will talk about a little bit of everything today. Just on the Man United thing, you know, a lot of people have lost some patience with Erik ten Hag. A lot of people have questioned Erik ten Hag. A lot of people are on the fence about Ten Hag. And some people are like, no, it's fine. We need to stick by the manager. It'll be fine. Help us.
Yeah.
Second season, is this... Talk to us.
I understand the situation that your guys are in and that you're getting impatient, you know. And it's not even the league... that's the main criteria for me that worries me. It's the way you got out of the Champions League. It's at least you should have grabbed the 3rd place, and actually in that group you have to go to the next round. So that is like bad situation there. In the league, yeah, I know it's a difficult situation. In my opinion, there's a big group that can fight for the 4th place. You're amongst that group. For me, Manchester City and Liverpool and Arsenal are a little bit clear of the rest of the group. It's actually quite an accomplishment that Aston Villa is amongst those teams at the moment. So it is a rebuild for you guys. And the problem is that, in my opinion, and I've stated that at the beginning of the season already, that the transfers you got in, it's difficult. You know, you should rebuild your squad with players that can be of a certain value immediately, and a lot of those players need time, especially also a Højlund. You know, this guy has obviously talent; it's there, you know, but he has to have time to adapt to the Premier League. A lot of injuries also, so I understand it's a difficult situation for the team, but yeah, it's difficult to predict what to do. You know, you have a group of people that say we want improvement now, get us another coach. But this is a rebuild also since he went to be the coach of United. And his problem, I think, is that he overperformed, in my opinion, in that first season. He went with you guys to the 4th place. He grabbed the cup with United, and that sets a certain example for the next season. And then the injuries come. Then you have certain signings. You still have the problem with the owners. That's going on. And finally now with Radcliffe being introduced in the club and bought himself in, maybe some rest can come, and you guys can look forward. But it's a difficult situation. So you will always have 2 camps. You will have the camp that say, get him out of here, just let a new coach try it, or the people that realize that it's a rebuild. And sometimes you have to go through certain phases to come out of them in a later stage. I'm amongst that group, but I can understand that, especially amongst the United fan base, you guys want results now. And if it's realistic all the time, I do not know. You guys can tell me more about that. But there's a much larger group maybe that wants that. And they are probably for sacking Ten Hag. So, yeah, it's difficult to predict how it will unfold. But my opinion is give him time and give the group time. And also, if you look at certain matches, the last half a season, a lot of those players that played and actually also carried the team by times, like McTominay, are still the players that were like the first team players before Ten Hag was coming to Manchester United. So it's sometimes difficult to expect a different outcome with the core group being the same for a lot of players amongst those first 11.
Keegan says Eyejax always said it gets worse before it gets better. Owen, do we need to remember that?
Well, I was going to have a question for Eyejax because obviously we've spoken a million different times about Ten Hag and particularly sort of philosophy and style of play and what he was going to bring to Manchester United, how he was going to change players or how players would have to change for him and tactical systems and what have you. And I think a big turning point for people that maybe are sort of now looking at maybe a different coach or a different manager this season was when he did, it was an interview after a game, or it was in a press conference. I forget when it was. He's spoken on it a couple of times. And he was asked why, in sort of the second year, why haven't we seen a Man United side play closer to the Ajax style of football? Why haven't we seen that yet? And his response essentially was, we're never going to see that at Man United. We're never going to see that because I'm not at Ajax, and that's kind of the culture of the club, whereas the culture of Manchester United is different. I've got different players, so you have to kind of adapt to your players that you have, etc., etc. And that got a lot of people's backs up because I think they were looking at it going, well, we thought we were getting, we Flex, KG, Marcel all went to that final game in Amsterdam and saw that style and thought, right, that's what we want. We want to pick that up. We want to put that in Manchester. And signing the Ajax players or players that have played under him previously, Anthony, Martinez, Andre Onana, even someone like Amrabat from his time at Utrecht. It was kind of like, okay, we're getting players that fit his system, fit his style. We're going to get that. What did you make of sort of those comments about, we're never going to see that style at Manchester United. I've got different players and it's not ingrained into the club. Is that kind of a dangerous thing for him to say? Do you think, were you surprised by that?
Yeah, I catfished you all. No. I understand, sometimes maybe things got lost in translation. I don't know. But I think what he means is that the style of play at Ajax is instilled in our youth academy from like younger teams up. And yes, you must try and instill a certain philosophy in your team. And maybe he realizes that in the Premier League with his current squad, it is the possibility. But you should see some progress towards another style of play that you can, recognize from Manchester United and yet you get behind. And I think what he wants to say is like, with us, not at the moment actually, but usually from the academy and up, we have a certain philosophy that is carried out to the first team. And maybe that's difficult at Manchester United at the moment because the players that he has, the first team players that he already got when he went on to be the manager, maybe aren't suitable to play that exact style. So what I want to know is, what is his philosophy then? Did he touch, because I didn't see the interview, did he touch upon what kind of style he does want to play? And could it be a hybrid kind of style between where Manchester United in the past maybe is known for, and what he introduced, and not introduced, but what he worked with at Ajax. Because this is like a big question mark for me, because there's a different thing. You know, you can have the Ajax style and you can have a different style, but is it close to it? Is it like a hybrid version of it? That's something I would like to know. Did he tell you guys that in the interview?
I think he did. I think he said something along the lines of, you know, he wanted it to be, you know, proactive, attacking, sort of front foot football. I don't know if he used the word direct, but it's just, again, I think that was a big point of contention for a lot of people, because you've then got other examples in the Premier League of managers coming in and almost irrespective of the players they have at their disposal, still putting their fingerprints all over the style, straight away, the stamp of play. Like, for instance, a lot of people do the comparison with Ange Postecoglou at Spurs, where they say, you know, a lot of those players were at Spurs last season and they're playing Ange's style of football now, which is heavy possession based, heavy pressing, working the ball up the pitch, very fast paced as well. Whereas last season, I think Ten Hag tried to do it and very quickly realized, okay, maybe some of these players can't do it. I've got to do a compromise. But I think the thought was in this sort of second season is that we would get closer to what his vision of football was. And he's kind of regressed or gone backwards even further, because I don't know. It's very odd. And I do think that as a manager, that's a very risky strategy to publicly in the media say, you know, the style of football you thought you were bringing me in for, I'm not going to do that, even though that I've brought a lot of players I've worked with previously who would logically, you know, be able to get closer to what I want. So I don't know. Do you think that's just a case of maybe, like you said, a different league adapting to the Premier League? Do you think even an Ajax style of play can even work in the Premier League, or is because of the physicality and maybe the pace, is it a bit different? I mean, what do you think about that?
It's difficult because, in my opinion, Manchester City, for example, plays a little bit like that also. Not fully. They have their own version, like adapted to the Premier League, but they play a high possession style football and also very technical. So it can be done, but you have to build a team that is able to do it. And you have to also be honest with the players that are playing. Are they fit? Not even you can judge somebody on the signings that you bring in, but the players that you also have in the first squad, are they able to do that? And that is the difficult situation with the current squad. And I do not know if he stated that he wants to play that kind of football ever when he was announced to Manchester United, or it is the public opinion that they expect him to do that. And maybe he felt
said,
necessary.
I've got the quote in front of me here because he was asked about this in the press conference. So he said the thing previously about, you know, the not having the Ajax style at United, and he was kind of pushed on that in a press conference. And he said, quote, "The explanation from my point of view was totally wrong, that I can't play like Ajax because I have different players. I came here with my philosophy based on possession, but also I want to combine it with the DNA of Manchester United and combine it with the competencies and the characters of the players. We have seen what it was. We played very good football last season." He is adamant that his strategy is not to play long ball football, but to use pace and the height of his attacking players and the distribution of goalkeeper Andre Onana to repeat the opposition's press. He also then said, "We want to go more direct, but the explanation for my direct thought is that I want to go for long balls. No, I don't. I want Andre Onana to go for long balls. I want to play out from the back, but if an opponent is going in high press, it's a good option to go direct. But what I meant with directness is we want to press from different blocks and then go direct because we have players like Rasmus Højlund and Marcus Rashford and Anthony and Bruno Fernandes and Scott McTominay who are very good at it. And with the passing of Christian Eriksen and then the fullbacks joining in, that was my idea." So it's an interesting one. And then he says, "We have to win. I don't want to find excuses if we are not winning. We have to be more pragmatic, but still we have to win. That is the demand. I can't walk away from that." And I don't know, when he says stuff like that, to me, it's kind of quite mixed signals, I suppose. It's quite mixed signals because I don't want to go direct, but I do want to go direct. I want to play out from the back. Yeah, I think what he's sort of saying is, if you and this is the thing with Ten Hag too, you have to read between the lines a lot with what he says a lot of the time. Yeah. And I think he's kind of maybe hinting at that. Maybe he's not sure what the style of players at Manchester United, and because there are better teams than us, he's like, well, we take it game by game, basically. You know, if we play like a Spurs and they play a high line, we're going to go quite direct. If we're playing a lower team at home that's got a low block, it's going to be quite possession-based. But I think then the pushback from United fans is 18 months in, it kind of really shouldn't be that. It should just be a headline philosophy, and United just do it every single time. Yeah, and it's quite confusing, I think, to a lot of people.
I understand, and in my opinion, to play, and I've been stated that even before he was, your coach, the style of play with the possession play and the build-up play, it's necessary to have defenders that can do that. And Licha Martinez, you've witnessed how he plays. He's been injured, unfortunately. He's pivotal, and he was also pivotal for us to be one of those leaders in the build-up. This season, I've not watched every match because I was busy, but I believe Johnny Evans is even playing as a central defender now. Harry Maguire, who even played quite well a lot of matches in your squad, is in the central defense. So those are not maybe the type of players that can play that build-up play. So maybe the difference between is he going to do that, isn't he going to do that, it's also the players available. For that kind of play, you have to have a Licha Martinez that can do that build-up. I don't know how the quality of Johnny Evans is. If he's a good build-up player,
he's actually been good. Yeah. I tell you what, on the ball, I'm honestly, Eyejax, I think you'd have him in the Ajax defense. In terms of playing up from the back, he would fit perfectly in the Eredivisie.
Jordan Henderson in experience, old school player, not old school.
Let's get the next
and
one.
Johnny Evans, honestly, mate.
But I understand the confusion, and I myself was also expected more of a style towards what Ajax is playing or used to be playing, because we're utterly dead now. I'm not going to say that word. But it's a difficult situation. And also what baffled me also is the players that you got in. And I already touched upon that previously before the season started. I would have expected more players to adapt to that kind of style that you fit in those puzzle pieces. And I understand the Onana signing, but the Mount signing and also the Højlund signing, it can be good, It's a big talent, but then at least alter the play to suit him. Because that is something that I missed also in a lot of matches. He's a tall guy. He's like a target kind of man in the box. Feed him with good crosses. And then you have like players that cuts inside all the time, like a Marcus Rashford, like an Anthony doing his one-trick thing, It doesn't suit a player like him to not be utilized, So that is something that baffles me. But the style of play, he should be able to show Man United and the Man United fans what he wants, where he's building towards. And of course, you always have the criteria and the things happening like injuries and stuff, but still something should be instilled. And I understand that it can be, a little bit weird at times, that you think, what are we doing? What are we seeing? What is his philosophy? It looks like it's a different thing every time. That is something that I understand can worry you, but it's still a rebuild. He still has to go towards a certain a firm group of players that he can build a certain philosophy with. But I'm not seeing it also, the really one kind of philosophy besides what you expect, maybe the Ajax philosophy. I'm not seeing it also, like every match looks a little bit different for me.
When I've looked at like what's going on, and you're trying to work like sift through these different elements, and like you said, you obviously haven't watched like all of our games, but you got a snapshot, and you alluded to like the injuries and the people who need to be there in order to play how he wants to play. And I've always sort of said the amount of injuries we have had have impacted it. Of course it has impacted it, but when you see so many other teams with injuries and they still manage to compete at a high level, it kind of not throws that excuse in the bin, but it lessens the strength. It lessens the strength of that, because with what we have available, I still think we can expect to see a little bit more in terms of resolutions and style of play. If I'm just looking at it from a pure Ten Hag situation and how he will feel, he will say, well, literally from game 2, which was Spurs away. That's the second game of the season, isn't it? Literally from that game on, I think we just started getting hit, didn't we? I think Luke Shaw was out of that
He'll take it further back than that. He said numerous times since he's arrived at United, he said, since I've arrived, I've never played my strongest 11.
Yeah, because all last year he wanted to play Martial and didn't
He said that this season. He goes, since I've never played strongest 11.
I think we have to push back a little bit on that. Well, a lot on that, actually, because from main bits last year, it was, apart from the Martial thing, which I get, He found a way.
Football doesn't really work like that. Do you ever play your strongest 11?
So you can't really moan at that. That's just is what it is. You got to deal with that. This year, 100% ravaged. Like from game 2, we had, Luke Shaw was out. Then Mount was out and he's new and you want to get him going. Højlund, we bought him injured. Amrabat, we bought him injured or loaned him injured. Casemiro, then big term.
Martinez might as well have never come back.
Martinez
he was never fit.
Like the first up until Arsenal, and then it was like, what is this? Like,
well, and even then, I remember he came off against Wolves, didn't he, in the first game of the season?
Bayern. Oh yeah, there you go.
And we went.
Bayern.
Yeah.
And it was like,
Was it
Bayern? Yeah, Bayern the first game in Champions League, and then he came off in that game, didn't he? And that was it.
Yeah, he came off against Bayern. I think he came off against Arsenal. He came off against Wolves. Like, it was very clear.
So he was mashed up. Rashford's been way off it. Who else has been injured? Anthony's been rubbish, but has had personal problems and
he was
injuries.
absent.
Johnny Evans had injuries. Varane had injuries. Maguire had injuries.
We've tried 10 different centre-back combinations this season as well. At one point, we had three left backs under contract. None of them were fit. We had to play Amrabat left back for a bit of time.
But all the things you're saying towards the injuries, the thing I want to know, and you guys maybe know better than me, how is the depth of your squad compared to like the top 3 or the top 4 teams that are, in those places right now? You can have a lot of injuries, but if you have depth in your squad with like players that are close to like the first 11 players, then it's easier to handle that. But what I recall is that a lot of times I saw the lineups and I saw the bench. There are a lot of youth players, or like for me, fairly unknown players on your bench. How is the backup of your team? How's the squad depth?
Not great, to be honest. It's not great. But this is the thing. I think it's not necessarily been at points the squad depth as well, because it's been like those players that have been available, and sometimes they have been senior players. They've all not been really good. So it's got to that territory at points where it's like, I know that the alternative is the youth player, but play them. They might do a better job, or at the very least, and this was the really worrying time, which has got a bit better now for Ten Hag, not too much, but there was a point of time sort of around, when was it, Flex, sort of October, where it was like some of the senior players aren't running anymore, and we've got to put the youth players in to actually run, just to run around. That's when like people like Hannibal Mejbri came into the side for a brief period, and because again you're worried about are the players completely stopped trying. So when it comes to the backup, and the alternatives are not great, and we're actually seeing quite a few of these youth players and young players now getting loaned out because we're not in any competitions and the senior players coming back. But there was one thing I definitely wanted to bring up, and this is kind of to flex you as well. Did anyone see Cameroon yesterday with Andre Onana in goal? My goodness me. Andre Onana.
Why?
I feel like we have bought the Andre Onana that was maybe in his sort of final year at Eyejax. The Onana where it was like he's just come back from his ban. He was making a lot of mistakes. Doing a lot of interviews as well. And in the interviews comes across as a very strong character and a very strong personality, but maybe a bit out of touch.
On the pitch.
Yeah, maybe a bit out of touch with his own performances. What have you made of Andre Onana with what you've seen at Manchester United? Because yesterday he conceded, I think they lost 3-1, Cameroon.
They had
two
chances,
of the goals.
though. They could have come back.
Yeah, well, just... Again, but you look at the goals, and it kind of sums up Onana this season yesterday, where the goals go in, you go, you should do better, Andre. You should do better. And he's talking on the pitch, and obviously him going to AFCON was a complete kind of farce in the first place, of him staying an extra day, flying out there, a private jet that gets cancelled. He drives there. He thought allegedly he was going to play in the first game. He didn't. He was getting calmed down by Al-Hajj Diouf as well in the tunnel. Ajax.
He does for the first goal. What's he doing?
Honestly, I know. What have you made of Andre Onana at United, Ajax? And were you surprised when you saw him linked in the first place, or
no? I have to be honest. Like, his top level, it's just a good keeper, but he's been up and off, this season for you guys. And personally, the person Andre Onana, I have a big opinion on that. I'm not a big fan of him because of what happened at Ajax. So I understand with the interviews that you have like a certain opinion about him, and I share that, I think. But yeah, he's been not at the level that I expected him to be for you guys. He should be more solid, and he's definitely not at the level that I saw at Inter last season. So maybe it's a different pressure for him at Manchester United. You can never know how a player will cope in another club. We experienced the same at Ajax. Sometimes we sign a player that does very well at the Eredivisie, and then they cannot handle the pressure at a bigger club as Ajax. So that is always something that you have to wait and see. But he has not been stable enough for me, what I know that he can do as a player. So that is something that is a bad thing, of course. But also in his defense a bit, I saw some goals that you got against like last matches. And even if you had like a great keeper somewhere like really in the corner, you know, not being able to even make a save for those goals. So it's difficult. But he made some personal mistakes, at least a few matches that I saw. He made some big mistakes also on his own. That is something that you have to be accountable for.
He's the reason we're out of the Champions League, really. Exactly. If you want to look to a single player, I mean, he made mistakes against, who was it, Flex? It was Bayern, Galatasaray. Well, Galatasaray twice, wasn't it? Yeah. in both ones. Copenhagen. It was like 4 games. There were errors from the goalkeeper. And I think on top of that, I think we had thought, looking particularly, as you mentioned, from Inter, I think we thought, looking at the Champions League final, we were getting that Andre Onana when he was sort of against City, spraying the ball around and, you know, doing these unbelievable passes, breaking the lines, to the point that City just backed off. And in the end, they went, we can't press this goalkeeper. It's incredible. And he's kind of even stopped doing that as well, because he doesn't, I mean, Fletcher, when you're at the games, like when he gets his foot on the ball now, it kind of slows things down and doesn't sort of find the pass.
And you try to do the tactical thing. So it's like, okay, well, no, that's part of what we're trying to do. We're not used to seeing this at Old Trafford. A goalkeeper high up, the ball goes back to him, and he takes an absolute age to commit somebody out of their press to try and play. We're not used to seeing that. But then what usually happens is he waits and he just goes for like a long diag, and we lose it anyway. A couple of times he did that for Cameroon last night as well. I was watching. And he was sort of really, really high up. And I thought the commentators were sort of playing on it maybe a bit too much as well. I think there's some really frostiness maybe with the African media, maybe, because I saw some of their build-up as well. And they were basically saying, in layman's terms, it's a disgrace what he's done. And he's disgraced the federation. He's disgraced African football. He's disgraced Cameroonians. They didn't say the word disgraced. I'm adding that bit in. But they were saying that they didn't agree the fact that he, you know, jumped on a plane. He should have been there from the Wigan game. Like, he shouldn't have done it. And they're trying to build African football, and it shows a lack of commitment to his teammates. They were really strong.
Well, he did an interview, didn't he? He did an interview where he went back. He did an interview. He went, my priority is always Cameroon. Everyone went, well, it's not.
Yeah, it's not. Exactly. It's not. So he's doing things that aren't matching up. And then in the game, they were saying, like, he didn't really do anything wrong, but just because he was high up and like being involved in just passing it, the commentator was like, and this is why he was sent home in Qatar. This exact thing. Look how high he is, and then look, he does a long ball and he just gives it away. This is not what we want to see, and this is for me. Right? They were on him. But he wasn't helping himself. Yeah, he was high up, took the ball off the centre halves, and just like did a diags, and it just went straight back to Senegal. But I just think. What we're getting, the trade-off of what we're getting isn't big enough. Like the trade-off of, like, do you know what I mean? I'm seeing more eyebrows raised when we concede a goal than I'm seeing us in possession or build-up play or him making saves, him coming off the line. Even yesterday, again, there's a couple of ones where he punched it straight to a Cameroon player, a Senegalese player, and then they scored. Then there was another one that didn't lead to a goal, but he just came out and clattered everyone, and it was just a crap punch. It just doesn't look right. Then the Mane shot at the end.
Claiming crosses, does he?
That's exactly what I said as one of his weaknesses before you guys signed him. Getting the crosses, like punching it, the high balls, that is one of his weaknesses.
And I bet Bayindir comes in against Newport, yeah. And because he's just tall and whatever, I could just see him just catching a couple of balls, and I was going, yeah, see, we just prefer that.
We did that with Onana at the beginning of the season. I think the first game, he came out and he caught a cross, and everyone went, "Oh my god!" Because De Gea doesn't do it either. Everyone was like, "Oh, this is incredible," but you sort of go like Eyejax said, he goes, well, he doesn't actually really do that. He's a very erratic goalkeeper. Like that.
I do not like goalkeepers who punch the ball. It's a sort of weakness. It's a sort of weakness for me. If you if
you punch it, it's got to go miles and out of danger.
Yeah, if you have to stretch and you can barely reach it, I understand. But sometimes keepers just choose to punch a ball where you can catch it, and that's a sign of weakness for me.
And we're struggling on set pieces now. I mean, in our last game against Spurs, it was very clear what they did. They just put the ball near the 6-yard box because they know the goalkeeper's not going to come for it. He's going to stay on his line. And then once you put the ball in that area, anything can happen. And it's just, like Flex said, I think it's the trade-off. I think most United fans, when it came to the De Gea stuff last season, was, you just need someone that can play out from the back's more comfortable. But we're not even seeing that really from Onana.
How is the defense coping with? He wants to instill this within the team, like Ten Hag wants to have the build-up play. How is the back four coping with that situation? Are they available to receive the pass the majority of the time, and are they able to, get out of the pressure by their technical ability? Because that is what happened at Ajax. Also, we are used to playing the ball to the defenders, also to the side backs, and they are able to. Usually, at least the last few years under Ten Hag, be able to play out of the pressure. Are you guys, are the defenders able to do that at United? And are they available for him to give them the ball? Or does he have no other choice than play a long ball in the end?
See, this is where it's weird, because it's like, there have been some moments, there have been some moments where he's played a really good pass, or we've had our heart in our mouth and gone, oh my God, he nearly gave it away, but look, we're away. We've played out. And, we are a little bit shocked by that because we don't normally see it. So we're like, bloody hell, this keeper, we've got to get used to this. But those moments, I would say, are few and far between. What we normally see is that stop completely. In the early part of the season, when we did have more players,
we did it a lot more often. Yeah.
Like against Arsenal for a good chunk of time.
We played out from the back. Half. Yeah, absolutely.
Spurs first 20 minutes, played out from the back. We're like, actually... I want this is it, actually. Getting excited here. A couple of times against Galatasaray when we was in cruise control. Or was it Copenhagen away in cruise control? Playing out from the back. They couldn't get near us. We were like, yeah, this is what we want to see. But he would just undo it with just a mad mistake, and then the game's gone. You know what I mean? Or the team would undo it by conceding, and it's never for a sustained period of time. So to answer your question, bro, there's rarely.
Well, and also it goes back to the defenders being available as well, because it did feel like the moment that Martinez was out for however many months, that they just kind of went, we're not going to really do that playing up from the back anymore, because they went, we're just going to go longer more often. And I think that's when it circles back to the sort of style of play and the philosophy, because almost irrespective of who's available, you should still persist. Or I think that's what they want people to still see, that sort of persistence, and we don't. And I don't know. I think Onana, maybe a bit like Ten Hag and maybe Anthony and some of these other players that have come in over the last 18 months. I think maybe just, I've said it so many times, that Manchester United shirt and that badge weighs very, very heavy, and particularly in goal for a goalkeeper. That is the most pressure. It's one of the most pressured positions in the world, being the Manchester United goalkeeper. And even someone like Andre Onana, who's a very confident guy and, a very, visible guy. At one point in the season, particularly when we were in the Champions League, there were those talks about, should he even be playing? Does he need to be taken out of the side? Because it was clearly, you could tell. I mean, I remember Flex, you spoke to him, was it before the Burnley game?
Yeah.
And after the Burnley game, and he was going, oh, it's part of life, part of life. But even you could tell, like, it's getting to him. This is really getting to him. And I think the thing is with Onana too, is we talk about his faults and his deficiencies. If he was, let's say, 22, 23, you'd go, right, he's going to grow into that position. Hopefully, his shot stopping will get a bit better. But he's what, 27, 28, I think, around that age?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
You kind of think that, well, his fundamentals as a goalkeeper, they're probably not going to get any better at this point. Like this is the package. Like he might get a bit more, comfortable with the position and the pressure, because that can come with experience and age. But his sort of fundamentals as a goalkeeper, his shot stopping, that's just not going to get any better. And that's what worries me with him.
I understand, and it should not be, in my opinion, and at least what I experienced at Ajax and in the greater years, like last year's, it shouldn't be on the goalkeeper to be like responsible for the build-up play. He should be the extra player that you can give the ball to rotate it and find a solution to fight yourself out of pressure. And a lot of times also at Ajax, if you get pressed so hard that you cannot find any defender anymore to fight out of possession, then you play the long ball. How is it at United at the moment? Are they giving him the ball and he's responsible to find somebody up front? Or are you actually fighting out of possession, and are you available on the side backs, on the defensive side, to play out of the pressing? Because that is the thing that is necessary. And a player like Licha Martinez in your squad is pivotal for that kind of role. Because in the great years in the Ten Hag at Ajax, you had at the left side, you had Tagliafico, who was gifted playing out of football. You had Mazraoui, who was a very, very technical player on that right side. So you had players that could really play the ball upwards. Also, Timber is quite comfortable with that. So we had more solutions within our squad to fight yourself out of possession. And the keeper is somebody that you could rely on if you got pressed too much, and you have a little bit more rest because you have more rotation in the back. I do not see that, at least the matches that I saw at United. So it's difficult also for the coach to say, I want to play possession football, if you do not have the players that suit it. And that is something that you can maybe take Ten Hag accountable for, because then you should be able to build a squad like Alicia Martinez that was bought to suit that kind of play. It is stupidity if you want to play a certain style, but you do not have the players that suit it. So that's my take on it, at least.
I just can't help but looking at it, right, with all that's there, and just being like, I just think it should be more than this by now. And sometimes I feel guilty of being like, no, what do you expect? Second season, nothing's just done in 2 seasons. Maybe we did overachieve a bit, but there's a lot. I don't know. There's a lot of things that Ten Hag's done in terms of the decisions that he has made, or maybe hasn't made, and you're like, nah, I don't know, man. You got to do better, bro. You got to do better. That bit's on him.
Can we talk about the midfield as well? The midfield, this is something I think that needs to be discussed. So his current system is, when he's got the what do you say, Flex? Is it a 3-person midfield, including Bruno? It's 2 players. There's sort of a deeper 6. There's sort of an 8, and then there's sort of the 10. And Bruno as a 10 is everywhere, really. Yeah. And what we've noticed, particularly this season, it wasn't as bad last season. It was there, but it wasn't as bad last season. But this season, the gaps in the midfield are huge. They are, and this has been a constant throughout the entirety of the season. And really, irrespective of who's in there, whether it's Casemiro and I know Christian Eriksen, whether it's Mason Mount's in there, whether it's McTominay's in there, whether it's Kobbie Mainoo's in there, those gaps are massive. And I don't think anyone, even the best midfielder in the world, can cover those spaces. And I think back to Eyejax, what you were sort of saying, one of the main weaknesses of Erik ten Hag was stubbornness. He won't change.
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to have to come to a point when it comes to maybe his tactical setup that he's going to have to change that? Or do you think with the stubbornness, because we've now got players coming back like Casemiro, like Mason Mount, like Christian Eriksen, he's just going to go, nope, the better players are coming back. It's going to work, even though it hasn't worked all season and those gaps are still there?
Yeah, that's a difficult question, because I know Ten Hag of being stubborn, sometimes in a good way, sometimes that you think, man, come on, do something else, And at the end, it worked out for us, at least. So that's my experience. But the Premier League is a different kind of situation. And in my opinion, in life, if it's football or in personal life, you should always assess, what do I have, what can I do, and what is best suitable for the situation. And if you have long-term injuries, and you want to play a certain style, but you do not have the players that suit that kind of style, it would be stupidity to keep on going, knowing that it isn't well suited for that. So yeah, I would alter it a little bit to fit the style and to fit the players, because like I touched on before, the squad depth isn't there with all the injuries. So you have to be creative. And this is something that you can take Ten Hag accountable for. but maybe with the players coming back with the right players there, you can place that certain style. But that's not the situation at the moment. And at United, you do not have the time to just sit it out and just play the matches and wait for everything to resolve itself again, because there's high pressure, with the league, with the table. You have to perform, and otherwise you drop too far off down, and that's not something that you want. So you should try and alter the style and play to suit the best formation for the team that you have. And this is something that was my criticism on him also, and I've always stated that in the past. That stubbornness is sometimes very irritating as a fan.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree. The stubbornness, that's what I'm saying. The stubbornness is really irritating. And it's like, you want to see us kick on and you're not. I'm like, when is that going to happen? How is he going to do that? And the big thing that's been made about the injuries is that obviously people are coming back now, which is a good thing, obviously. And we have to keep our fingers crossed that the players actually stay back. Because what happens is one person comes back, then we lose two, then two come back, then we lose one. Literally, we just don't have a full complement. Now we've only got one game a week. We should be all right. But I'm thinking, how much better are we going to get with these players who come back? That's what I want to see. I want to really see something. Leach are coming back in. The emergence of Kobbie Mainoo has been like a new signing this season. That was obviously what was supposed to happen, but he got injured. Him next to Casemiro, what does that look like? Or is there still massive gaps in the midfield? Is there still no sort of tactics? What are we looking like on set pieces now? Like, what is it going to change? Like, is it going to get better with the players coming back?
That's the question. That's the difficulty of the situation. But what I saw with the Man United fan base, because I've been following you guys, been on here, I've been with you through the whole situation, and prior to him being the new head coach, that a rebuild was necessary. We all agreed on that, and we also said it will take probably a few years to do that. But also in his first season, I remember coming on, and it was against Brentford, a big loss, and a few bad matches afterwards. The stress was already there. And I come to you guys, I said, yeah, give him time, and then it improved. But what I see with the Man United fan base is there is no patience to actually do a rebuild. So a lot of the fans know a rebuild is necessary and it takes time. But then again, if it goes southwards a little bit and it goes bad, there isn't like the patience to give the manager and the players time to actually rebuild. The first solution to come to hand is, this isn't working, we need a new coach. So either you have to agree a new coach is necessary and immediate results should be there with a new coach, or you agree with there's a rebuild necessary and it will take a little bit of time and it will go up and down during that period. And the thing I do agree with, and the thing that is frustrating, is you should see something instilled within the team. And that is something that worries me also a little bit, because you can play bad and it can be a certain period that you have to go through. But if you see a little bit of growth within the team, although the results maybe aren't there, then you have something that you can,
See, that's the bit where
that is the thing that worries me a bit.
Yeah, I think that's the bit where you're right. It is about time, and when you do get these perspectives, it makes you think again. Like, I might leave this conversation and be like, you know what? Keep sticking on the same thing. Just relax. Just maybe stop looking at Ten Hag so much. Maybe just get a bit of calm. See how it goes with Ineos. But I've already decided. I've already been saying that to myself. I'm like, let's just get these players back. Let's get to the summer and see what we look like then. I haven't said press the button now or anything.
No, I know.
But I have said, if it gets to the end of the summer, and there's not been an upturn with players coming back, because we've got new owners or new people making decisions, should I say, minority owners, Eric just needs to be really careful he doesn't give them an easy decision to make. Because when new people arrive, it's a chance for a blanket response, isn't it? But actually, we're only a year into 18 months into this rebuild. So
and also, in my opinion, you have to look at the history of the club. You've been and you are one of the biggest clubs in the world, and some would say the biggest. But look at the period since Ferguson left the club. Look at all of the coaches that you've had since then. Big name coaches also. How did they do with Manchester United? Can you name me a manager that you were like, yes, that was the manager for me that I could get behind, and he showed us for a majority of the season, yeah, this is something that we can get behind, and it's comparable to maybe the Ferguson era.
No,
I cannot name too many of them. So
Yeah.
are you going to continue like sacking managers and trying again, sacking managers, trying again, or are you going to like properly do a rebuild? It can be with Ten Hag, or it should be not a manager, but I'm not seeing the new manager being a solution for an immediate change, because the past didn't show that also. So it's a very difficult situation.
It is a difficult situation because and this is where it gets really complex, isn't it, Flex? Because so you go, with this rebuild and all this kind of stuff, and I always say everything circles back to recruitment, because I think Manchester United, I would put United up there with anyone in world football. I think we have the worst recruitment out of any football club. Like it's that bad. It's that bad. And I think then I think as fans, you have to try and find that line of, well, who's to blame when it comes to all of that? Is it, the executives? Is it the people that negotiate? Is it the people that sort out the transfer fees and what have you? Or is part of it the coach? Because we know Erik ten Hag has this really strong influence over recruitment. In fact, he's got in his contract a veto on certain transfer decisions. We know his agent is really heavily involved in recruitment at Manchester United as well. We've tended to buy players from Ten Hag's agency and people that his agent knows quite well. And look, a lot of money's been spent on Erik ten Hag players. £400 million is a lot. And I think that's, again, when we go into sort of the rebuild stuff, I think that's a point of contention for some fans, because I think they would agree in principle with what you're saying, Eyejax, going, it needs time, the rebuild takes time. But after 18 months and £400 million, not necessarily like you need results, like we need to be winning everything, but you need to see something. You need to have...
I agree.
You need to have, again, a style of play. Like, for instance, again, when we played Spurs last weekend, we drew that game and Spurs were happy with the draw. And it almost, for us, felt like a loss, and to them felt like a win, because they said, we've come to Old Trafford and we've dominated. We've passed Manchester United off the park. We were the superior team and we're heading in the right direction. And I don't think with United, we've had that this season, where we've come out of a game and either we've lost or we've drawn, but we've gone, I tell you what, though, we played really well. And some of the stuff we've done today, we're going in that right direction. It kind of feels like we're drifting. We're drifting. But, and again, this is when people will push back with Ten Hag, because they'll say, well, yes, we're drifting, but you drift when for 12 months, you're doing a strategic review of alternatives, and, it's the club's bidding. There's people bidding for the club. And, from an FFP point of view, our sort of scheduled transfer payments are the highest in the league. So we're just a mess. And I think that's the difficult point involved in all of this, isn't it? It's finding where Erik ten Hag fits in that mess. Is a lot of it his fault? Not everything, but is some of it his fault? Or is it Manchester United, the institution, that's the problem? Yeah. And this is what's interesting, is because, again, a lot of people sit on the different sort of side of this. I mean, I would agree that £400 million, you expect to see something, and when you don't see a lot,
but you're allowed to think that.
Exactly.
Regardless of what's going on upstairs or with different things happening, like on the pitch every day where the coaching's being done at Carrington on the grass. Like all the pros say, like all the managers say, what's going on outside and who's doing this is not our concern. Our job is to turn up here at 10 a.m. every morning, understand what the coaches are trying to do. The coaches are supposed to understand the players, get their message across, so that when we get to the matches on the weekend, everybody knows what they're doing, regardless of who's doing what in the background. And yes, it has, of course, when it gets to transfers and Ten Hag wants this and this player needs to be sold, but he can't because he digs his heels in and he's still in the squad because he's got a big contract. Yes. Agree with that. But you can't. I just get uncomfortable when people don't want to talk about the manager at all because of those things that are going on, because of Ineos, because of this, that, and the other. When it comes to being on the training ground, it's not Ineos' fault or the Glazers' fault that we're going zonal marking on corners and can't defend it properly. It's not their fault. Like, that's a tactical. It's when we're setting up from throw-ins and we can never just do feet and back and turn out and start playing. That's not the Glazers' fault. That's coaching. Do you know what I'm saying? These are the fundamentals. And then, when we wanted to, and sorry to keep using Anthony as the
no,
as the
let's
thing,
touch upon Anthony. I fully
y-
agree. So
whose
let's touch
fault's
upon
that?
him.
Eric Ten Hag going, no, listen, I know it might not be Eric Ten Hag's fault that we paid that much because he said let's get him earlier, so it should have been 40, it should have been 50, cool, but he still wanted him, and it's got to the point where even if we're looking at Anthony as a £30 million player, we'll be like, well, that wasn't £30 million well spent. Probably got to move this guy. He's just not at the level. And maybe he might get better. I don't know. But so far, it looks like a waste of money. So that's where it gets to board level. Like nobody stopped Eric Ten Hag doing that. Yeah, cool. That's a nobody went, I'll tell you what, Eric, I know you really want him, but Ajax are saying he has to cost 80 to 100. We're just not going to do that. Like, no. But he's obviously pushed, but nobody's stepped in and said no. That's a big problem. So, yeah, I mean, we've got to wrap up in a second, but I know you just want to speak about Anthony there, bro. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation because, you know, in my opinion, Ten Hag is responsible also for signings coming in. I do not know how responsible. I think he has a big say in who comes in and what you pay for him. That's more of the management side. You know, like the guys that have to do the negotiations. But with Anthony, I've touched upon it also earlier this season. I do not understand if you play with him, that you play the way you play, because he's a one-trick pony, only cuts inside. The only thing when it works with him is that you have an overlapping back that is technically gifted, that you can be a tandem together and be a little bit more of unpredictable, you know, and it isn't happening with him. So Højlund needs feeding, you know, with good crosses. He never goes long. He always cuts inside. That is.
But we don't have overlapping fullbacks because our fullbacks invert half the time. Dalot's in centre mid, and he's actually doing all right at that. But you're right. Wan-Bissaka don't really do that.
And that's also what I touched upon like a few months ago when I was on here. That is something that you can blame Ten Hag for. You should utilize the player of what he can do best. And if he only cuts inside and you do not have other options or versatility on that wing, it isn't going to work. It just isn't going to work. He isn't the Arjen Robben that every time that he's so fast and cuts inside that he can cross that ball towards the far post. It isn't happening. I'm not seeing it. And this is something that baffled me a little bit, because at Ajax, we had Mazraoui, and at Ajax, we had that unpredictability that he's cutting inside or giving the ball, that the overlap is happening. That was something that gave Haller a lot of good chances to finish it off, and he scored a lot for us that way. So either find a solution to suit the play, but not just keep playing him the way he plays, because it's so easy to defend.
Well, now we don't even play him anymore. Even Ten Hag's gone, oh yeah, look, since that thing's happened,
and
been rubbish.
That's a difficult
playing out there now.
Yeah, I agree, and that's a difficult situation. Also, you guys are buying players that are talented, or at least showed a lot in other competitions, but they aren't established names yet. So take into account that you have the pressure at Man United as a player, which is maybe one of the highest pressures that you have as a player, maybe in the world, amongst the top teams at least. Then you have the Premier League, that is a totally different situation than the leagues that they are coming from. It's quite difficult, and maybe only Casemiro is like an established name brought in at a certain age. But all the other players, even Højlund, that you paid a lot for, they're still young. They need time. And in my opinion, at Man United, in this situation that you are in, you do not always have that time, because you want immediate results also. So can you blame the players for that? Or is it maybe a technical situation with the management making wrong decisions? That is also what I already stated at the beginning of the season. I do not understand paying so much for Mason Mount, paying that amount for Højlund that is unproven and still needs to grow. And if you play Højlund, make the style suit him, feed him, give him crosses. That's the thing I'm worried about. That's not making sense.
Yeah. V33 says, just like how Chelsea destroys top strikers, Man United destroys top managers' careers. Eric Ten Hag is blooding in the youth with restraints. Eric Ten Hag deserves better. And Anil Sakar says, not giving opportunities to ball secure players like Mejbri, Dangor, Palestri, and playing Bruno and Rashford week in, week out is on Ten Hag. I don't know. You have to be ready. Like, to play for Man United as a kid, right? You have to look like Kobbie Mainoo. Let's just be honest. Like, you've got to be head and shot. Like, I'm not so sure Hannibal, Mejbri, Dangor, Palestri we've seen. Let's not paint it to be
yeah,
like
we do
Lestri's
we do
wicked.
this a
Like,
lot, and
he's
we
not,
we,
bro.
d-
He's
we do
not.
this a lot when we go like play
He's
this
not.
person, then they play and they go
100%.
maybe they're not ready to be
But,
played.
but even with a Menu, who's a great talent, you know, you have to accept that faults will be made. If you see that, I believe it was Kudus, right? Was it his fault that he lost the ball and then Kudus scored it against West Ham? Was that Menu?
Yeah,
Kobe Manu.
yeah.
He's young. He's going to make mistakes. Yeah, of course.
He's going to make mistakes, and
he's
he's a
straight in
great
next
talent.
game.
So you have to accept that if you play those talents, mistakes will be made. And those are all things like settling in players that are young, that have to get used to the play, to get used to the team and the league, and also youngsters that should allow to make mistakes. Do you have that room within your current situation and squad to have that situation there? Is it possible? Because you need results now also, and that's something that is just difficult to fit this puzzle. You know, it's difficult situation.
It is. Eyejax, listen, thank you for joining us, bro. It's always
welcome, always, man.
Always a pleasure, obviously. Well done on Sky Sports yesterday, bro. It was good to see
I
you.
heard about that. Bro. Yeah, go television debuts.
Television
yeah,
debut,
man, it was something nice to do. Thanks for having me there, also, man.
No worries. It's good to have you, man. Always, obviously, stay in touch, and you're never going to be a stranger to the channel.
Yeah.
As any of the other guys as well. So wish them well for us.
Yeah, I will.
As for you guys watching at home, smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Make sure you've done all of that good stuff. Smash a like on the way out as well. I think we were quite low on likes. I didn't really push you out throughout the show. We're at 162. If we can get to 200 on the way out the door, that would be top as well. I challenge you guys to do that exactly. We'll see you again soon on the next stream, guys. Take care. Peace.
Bye.